Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from, whether it's live in the venue here in Charlotte, North Carolina, or it's at home on Twitch and YouTube. We've had some upsets this morning, but unfortunately for the two teams in the pools that we're about to watch, it's gone according to plan so far.
Yeah, to someone's plan, I guess. It's to the teams that have been the highest seed. However, we are going to see Legion Gaming going up against Cloud9 now as our remainder game. And this is going to be a pretty much do or die game for Legion Gaming. Can they get out of open bracket into pools and maybe push their way through? But there is a scenario where if they were to win, it ends up as a three-way tie between teams, and then it starts to get complicated with the mathematics.
Well, all to play for still for our two teams, particularly for Cloud9, already taken down Luminon Gaming.
I couldn't see for a second, sorry.
It all went dark for just a moment.
Just couldn't see for a second, I'm okay.
But for Legion Gaming, Dan, has to be said, went through the gauntlet yesterday, going through the open bracket, managed to win out, coming through on the upper side too, but now they're starting to play against some of the bigger dogs, and they're starting to find out that the bite is just as bad as the bark.
It is indeed, and I think that losing 3-0 to Luminon right at the start of the day probably hurt Legion quite a lot. They would have been coming in full of confidence, full of beans, thinking they're going to be able to take down the European team that struggled a little bit yesterday. But then after losing that 3-0 and then having to go up against FaZe as well, who looked pretty solid thus far, yeah, it's going to be a rough one here against Cloud9. But, you know, we'll have to see whether they can pull it out at the final moment.
Underway then. Avucy falls. The opening breaks can be so important, particularly if you're that open bracket team. You want to try and get scrappy off the start and not give the higher seeded team too much to build upon. And as I say that, B&C in control over Cloud9 and a sniper rifle for Sab to work with.
I think Lattice to start is a good opportunity for Legion Gaming. I've said it time and time again. This map is the perfect opener for teams who are just maybe a little bit more under-practiced across the board compared to some of the bigger and better teams. Question for you, Xuzeyy. Who do you prefer, Euzey or Xuzeyy?
I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Both players, of course, trying to make a name for themselves, building a reputation. And they'll do their confidence in the world of good, but also their stock, making it through the open bracket. For players like Gunnplexion, he tried so often to make it to this point, to get here. Finally broken that duck, broken the curse, you might say. You know he desperately wants to give a good account of himself on the main stage, particularly with how the first couple of games have gone. Can he still change the narrative? Is there still life in Legion Gaming?
Well, to do it in the last open bracket of Halo Infinite as well is quite something, right before the World Championship. To just put yourself within that pro bracket, and then when the time does come around, of course, with, you know, a next Halo or whatever, when is it going to be a chance that you can put your name in the books and say, well, I was able to get there, I was able to break into that top 16, or potentially further, depending on what happens in this series. But at the moment, Cloud9 up by quite a bit here and looking pretty confident. All three strongholds in their control. It was a real roller coaster of a day for Cloud9 yesterday. They took down Luminon Gaming, and I think that was a little bit of a shock result, especially if you look back at Salt Lake City. They had lost to that same roster in the championship bracket, and then they go on and play FaZe, and they don't really do as much against FaZe as perhaps they would have expected to. So they really want to make sure they just solidify this one to ensure they get at least second place in this pool.
Stakes are high. Higher than just a few CSR points, let me tell you. That triple cap is in, and it's in tight. Little gatorz has gotten himself a kill. No longer on that goose. Which is important. You always know you start to play a little bit differently when your stat line reads 0. You play a little bit more desperate. You rush things you shouldn't. Maybe he can start to play his game now. Monkey off his back. Gunny gets a nice kill bottom middle. Ventures forward. Avucy trying to tag him up with a nade. Nothing doing for now. Fight goes down inside B. But it's still A and C in control for Cloud9. It's the per man setup, but it's still good enough to gain you points.
Also, from what I've heard and what I've seen, Little gatorz is not so litty. Litty. He might be litty, but he's not so little. He's like 6 foot something.
6'8", I think.
6'8" is...
That means Wes is looking up at him.
6'8" is insane, by the way. How do you even stay in your chair at that height? But
that's a lot of man.
That's a very tall boy, but 164 to 20. Legion Gaming, maybe they can start to work their way back into it now they have the sniper rifle, but it is a long old journey. Cloud9 dominating the opening stages here. Maybe Euzey can just start to generate something here a little bit with some damage. Bubu does get the trade though.
If you're wondering just how tall Dan is, we have it as of recently. He's 5'7".
What the hell?
That's what I was told.
Who were you told
That's
that by?
That's the word of the street.
Just to clarify, I'm not 5'7". I'm at least 5'9".
You did say with shoes on. So
No, that's 5'10" with shoes on. Depending on the shoes.
Regardless of the height of players and commentators, B has now changed hands. Cloud9 in control again. 167 points and climbing. Legion Gaming's 63. Still work to be done for Cloud9 though, and you know they will not want to be taking these players too lightly.
No, you don't want to give them a chance back into this game and give them the confidence, because we saw the momentum that Legion Gaming had yesterday within that open bracket. Been able to beat LATAM teams, for example, able to take down quite some impressive players in that open bracket to find themselves here in this pool. Sadly, this pool just hasn't really gone to plan. You could say the same for other pools, but it's been a different story. Mindfreak, for example, taking down Optic Gaming and now battling it out to try and win their group.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, sorry.
A little bit of control now for Legion. Well, having said that, they've lost a couple of members and it was an unofficial 3 dead for just a moment. So A is not going to stay in Legion Gaming's control for too long. 180 points now. For Legion Gaming, it looks like our long road back, but we have seen stranger things.
Great series.
Great series. Still a chance, particularly with strongholds. There's always a way back into the game.
I'm not sure if there is a way back.
Always a way back into the game.
Cloud9 are positioning themselves very well to secure A and B at the moment, and they force them back into C. They're watching every angle. No matter where you go for Legion Gaming here, you are going to face up against a Cloud9 bandit. Just about trying to force it with pure amount of players, and they have tried to send towards Ice. Gunnplexion has been able to find 2 before he's traded out, so it is going to be a successful break, but it was still 20 seconds scored within that time. Now, Cloud9 are only going to have to do that a couple more times here to win this game.
It was 4 dead. A and B now. The ideal setup for Legion. Let Cloud9 have C and fight them when they step outside. Bubu dubu. Sliding towards A. Nice shots from gatorz. He now turns his attention towards B and tries to provide some cover fire for his teammates. Sab and Bubu in the respawn screen. The 1v1 here. Avucy gets put down. Some more nice shots from little gatorz as he slides towards Ice.
I don't know how gatorz deal with Ice, but this one certainly is getting the job done in the moment. Struggled at the start of this game, but starting to ease his way into it now. And it is certainly helping Legion here. Temporary trip cap, they have been able to halve this deficit for now. Cloud9, 3 dead again. This is looking good for Legion. Now they need to build off this momentum. With Kuhlect going down, that means there's going to be a slight little bit of off spawns here for Cloud9. They're going to try and get together, so if you're Legion Gaming, you want to try and push the narrative a little bit. Get in the faces of Cloud9. Don't allow them to get together and stabilize.
1 or 2 more rounds of slays, and all of a sudden Legion Gaming will be right back into this one. You might even argue they're right back into it as it stands. Kuhlect and Sab are down. Xuzeyy and little gatorz too. It was even on the map. It's a 1v1 now for B. Bubu dubu using the thruster pack, slides against the wall, delaying, buying time for his teammates. He managed to capture B and live just long enough for his teammates to spawn back up again. And a triple kill for Sab.
That's huge from Sab. It's going to be another 1v1 on the map, but Avucy's going to win that one against Gunnplexion, and it will mean Cloud9 continue to score here. 10 more seconds required to take map 1.
Time dwindling away. The triple cap could almost be locked in as well, just to close this one out with an exclamation point. But Xuzey's inside the hill.
Enemy team
They're starting to score, but just how long can they hold here? Avucy's going to try and capture C. A still half the way capped, but nobody inside to get the reset until this very moment. Okay then, Legion Gaming stabilize, but there's so much work to do.
Cloud9 trying to plan their attack, but with bubu dubu going down, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Kuhlect will get the trade, and now B is going to be the point of attack here. 2 down for Legion, and sadly they're trying to defend 2 strongholds at the same time. Very difficult to spread yourselves out.
Numbers spread thin, too much to watch, too much to guard. Cloud9 take game 1.
And Legion Gaming did make a game of it. It was looking pretty dire at the beginning, and Cloud9 were looking very comfortable, but Legion did just remind them of why they are here in pool play. They were very impressive throughout the open bracket, and we saw glimpses of it there. It's always going to be a little bit more difficult when you get into pool play against some of these more practice teams, but I think that will give them a little bit of confidence going into map 2 here. I think if they had lost like 250 to 20, your head starts to drop a little bit, but there is certainly still life in this one. Xuzeyy with 23 kills, but on the flip side, Sab with 27. Anything you can do, I can do better.
A very impressive performance from Cloud9, although they did give Legion Gaming a little bit of a chance there towards the end. And like you say, that can only give confidence to that open bracket team, who now, of course, we can say they're the pro bracket team because they've made it in there at long last. And I think for players like Gunnplexion, the more reps he can get on that main stage, the better. Yeah,
I think they're probably having a great time up there on the main stage. It is quite something, especially when you are one of the teams that's chosen to be up there throughout the entirety. This is your moment. This is your chance to shine. This is your chance to put on display what you can do. But the amount of times we've seen teams get to this position and lose 3-0, lose 3-0, lose 3-0. You want to at least do something to show what you're made of here, and I think that this could be the series. And even though they've lost that first map, again, it's Lattice, right? There's always the question mark for a lot of these teams. Is it any good? Are they kind of practiced on it at all? Now you can move into the more tried and tested gaming modes here.
I think you make a good point as well, because Legion Gaming would have been playing against, in the open bracket, teams who are perhaps only together 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and screaming teams in and around them. But when you start to play against Cloud9, who are consistently making pro brackets, consistently going further in tournaments, it's just a little bit more of a difficult question, a little bit more of a difficult task to topple a team like that.
They probably came into the series saying, which Cloud9 are we going to face? Because the Cloud9 versus Luminon looked like they were great, looked they were up for a fight, looked like they might have been able to take down FaZe, but then against FaZe they looked a little lackluster at times. And even though they made it difficult, they made it messy against FaZe Clan, especially in the Aquarius Capture the Flag, for example, they didn't look as well polished as they did against Luminon, which makes me wonder, was it Luminon maybe being a little bit slow out of the blocks and struggling at the start of that series, which perhaps made Cloud9 look a little bit better?
I think it's probably time for us to talk about the Slayer that's on the horizon. We always talk about it. I think we've talked about it all tournament long. Okay, Lattice, it's a good chance for the lower seeded teams. Slayers, that's a good chance for lower seeded teams. Is this the time for Legion to get themselves on the board?
I'd hope so. I think they'd hope so as well. It's going to be one of their best opportunities, but with Sab playing like that, it's very difficult to take down Cloud9. The amount of times we've seen Cloud9 in Slayers and Sab just absolutely pop off. He's very good at listening to his teammates, making sure he's in the right position to capitalize on the damage that they've done. So I think if he continues to play in this way, I don't think there's much of a chance for Legion. However, if they can shut him down, who knows?
And thinking of the timing of it all, with this being the last pool play match, Legion Gaming really meeting Cloud9 at the worst possible time, really, because Cloud9 playing so well yesterday, taking down Luminon Gaming. You now come up against a very motivated Cloud9 team, and they're really putting it to the sword, picking that game #1.
And Cloud9 also come into this series knowing what they have to do as well. Sometimes if you're playing that first series of the day, you're like, well, I don't really know how Legion Gaming are going to do. It's a bit iffy, but Cloud9 know exactly what needs to happen here. If Cloud9 win, they finish second in the pool. If Cloud9 lose, well, suddenly Legion Gaming have a chance to go through and there's a three-way tie. It's pretty simple for Cloud9. It's just win and you go through.
Cloud9's destiny well and truly in their hands. Snipe rifle in Avucy's hands. Camouflage as well, so you won't see those hands. He moves over towards green. All 4 players decide to turtle up. And typically this does not go well.
Wow.
We let the camouflage player walk in, get some information. You can see all 4 players, the outlines there. And he goes. Information garnered. All 4 players set up around the cave.
They're out.
He's trying to back away, and they're trying to spring the trap here. He's coming, and he's still coming, and Avucy doesn't give a damn.
They won't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. But Legion Gaming, sadly, aren't able to capitalize after making the play to try and slow things down. Cloud9, they time it perfectly. You could see there was reluctance from Avucy to try and push him because he had the sniper rifle. Now it's going to be a little reward for Gunnplexion. Sniper rifle in hands. Can he actually get anything with it? At the moment, he's in a pretty difficult position. I think he was called out. That's why the nades were starting to head his way. Ready to take the fight, though, but again, just can't get into one of those comfortable spots.
Getting a lot of pressure. Opting to back away. Sab drops down, turns Gunnplexion into Dumplexion. Sniper rifle is going to fall. gatorz gets taken care of as well. Double kill for bubu dubu, and he almost lined up a triple.
Started to think about it. Heart started to beat a little bit faster, but good from Legion Gaming to ensure that he does get shut down immediately. 15-11, QT in the hands of Kuhlect now. And the pace starts to pick up a little bit. Maybe Legion Gaming realizing that slowing it down to a cruel is not going to be how they win this one. In fact, that might actually just play into the hands of Cloud9 and their style. Two players are trying to go for a little bit of a pinch here. This could work out well for Legion.
Two members of C9 fall. Oh, double kill for Avucy, and Sab gets a double kill of his own. So that's going to be 4 dead for Legion Gaming, and things looked pretty good for them over towards that green side, but good situation turned sour very, very fast, and now a 5-kill advantage. Cloud9 don't seem to be feeling any kind of pressure here from Legion Gaming. They seem to be able to do damage and move wherever they seem to like.
When that pinch started to come through from Legion Gaming, you thought that maybe Cloud9 were going to turtle up at green, Legion would get the kills, they would start to get back into the game, but what Avucy did really well was actually put himself into a position where they had to commit to green rather than peeking out and then just taking damage. He forced them to actually come his way, and then he could take that 1v1 or 1v2 in that scenario. He was able to output quite a lot of damage, but now 3 are dead for Cloud9. However, sniper rifle maybe makes it a little bit easier for Avucy to try and defend this one.
Euzey managed to get a melee, and that means Avucy has to play this one patiently and carefully whilst he waits for his shields to recharge. Goes in and clears outside house, gets information as players positioned bottom middle. Gunnplexion's going to slide out, meet his demise, meet his maker. Killing spree. And Avucy continues to have an influence. Outside now. The squabble continues. What was a 5-kill is now a 7-kill advantage. As long as Cloud9 keep chipping away, it will be a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, 8-kill lead is really good for them. I think Legion Gaming will start to panic a little bit now, thinking, you know, we need to maybe change how we're playing this one, change how we're going to approach this. Oh my goodness gracious, Avucy. Those are the kind of shots that hurt. When you've committed that much to try and take the sniper rifle down and you get absolutely obliterated, really difficult off the respawn screen to try and pose yourself, to be honest.
Avucy being a little bit of an open bracket bully right now. He's taking everybody's lunch money. Back tower. A couple of resources from Legion Gaming go to take care of that threat. Believe me, it is one. Euzey top middle settles for a trade. Unfortunately, at this game state, trades are not really what they're looking for. Looking for some freebies if you have them. Put that in your basket. Apply some discount codes if you need to. Because you're in trouble. Because Kuhlect now has the camouflage, and it could very quickly go from bad to worse.
Again, though, Legion Gaming trying to slow it down, trying to wait for that camouflage, see if they can spot them out. But Kuhlect did just provide a little bit of info. Not only did he see a player, he also heard the players bottom middle, I believe. So he was able to just relay that to the team so they didn't get caught out, and now he's trying to make a play to get behind. Looks like they're going to work together for a push here, and it will come, so at least they get the trade. Now it's a 7-kill lead, as they are 13 kills from winning this map.
Kuhlect's friends fall. Bottom tower. They have to watch that. It's a tough watch for him. His friends wither away to the abyss. Happy to keep the camouflage in effect. Happy to keep gaining information, and with this lead, as significant as it is, you almost need 2 clean rounds of slays without losing a body for Legion Gaming to get themselves back into this one. It's relatively smooth sailing right now. Legion Gaming just not asking enough of those difficult questions.
They just haven't got hold of the sniper rifle enough as well. Even just the 1 or 2 kills that are going in favor of Cloud9 are just such influential ones. Speaking of, there's the difference. A matter of inches wide of the head just means that Cloud9 are able to survive, shut down the sniper rifle, and now their lead is increased to 12 with only 4 now required. I think the writing might be on the wall of live fire here.
Sometimes the difference between the good and the best is a frame or two. Sab rips the face of Gunnplexion. Heads towards cuts. Players bottom middle. Always aware. Players can be situated any which place at inner time and working. The alarm bells are ringing. And for good reasons. Sab gets Euzey here. Connection chases up that damage. And Sab went for a little bit of a highlight reel.
Sab just wanted to finish this one with a little bit of a bang. But I don't think it will matter too much that he missed. 10 kill advantage for Cloud9. They just require one now. Bubu's trying to be patient. It would be an incredible comeback if somehow Legion were able to win this one. But reality is Cloud9 just have to bundle together and brute force their way into a kill, which they will find, and it is going to be Sab in the end. As Cloud9 take the lead 2-0, and Legion Gaming on the brink of being eliminated from this competition.
Professional performance from Cloud9. Business as usual. And for Legion Gaming, you've already said it, but I need to repeat it. One game away from elimination. And they might be happy with what they secured this event, but you know when you finally get there and you make it to the main stage, you want as many reps as you possibly can get. You don't want to be going 0-3 in pools. You want to have a little bit more of an impact. You want to cause some ruckus and some shenanigans. And so far, it hasn't gone their way.
Like I said, it's a tale as old as time. They will not be the first team, and they certainly won't be the last team either to come through open bracket and then lose 3 back-to-back series on main stage. But there is still a little bit of hope, because it hasn't happened just yet. Only 2 down. And whilst they were very impressive through open bracket, I'm sure they would be happy with top 16. If you'd asked them at the start of this tournament, you get top 16, you get to play on main stage, I'm sure all smiles. But it doesn't feel great in that moment when it's happening and when you are losing, but sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles.
And sometimes you wonder if life is following some sort of script, and it's been written pretty well for a player like Gunnplexion, who tried and tried and tried, failed and failed and failed to get here. And at the very last opportunity, he makes it. He captures it. It's really a great story.
It is very happy for him as well, but I'd be happier if they could take a map here against Cloud9 and make this a little bit more competitive against a team. Cloud9 just don't seem like they've really been tested so far in this series. I mean, it hasn't been super easy. It's not like they've been absolutely steamrolling them. It's not like a spectacular or anything like that, but they also haven't really been behind and had to struggle. They've always been ahead so far.
Yeah, I think they've really set themselves up for success in games 1 and 2. Like you say, never really behind. They were up 160 points to 40 at one point, and then it was a slow grind to finally get to 250. With the Slayer game, they always had a 2-3 kill lead and eventually grew that and closed out the game. And I think Legion Gaming have really been struggling to get control of, you mentioned it, the power weapons and the power-ups, and that's really where they're going to start to find some success against the higher seeded team in Cloud9.
Yeah, and I wonder if Cloud9 now are starting to think about the next match and who they might be facing in that winners bracket, because if they win this, they of course finish second in their pool. They qualify through to the winners bracket side of things in the championship, and it's going to be interesting, that bracket, because I think Mindfreak have changed the complexion of everything, the Gunnplexion of everything. The fact that Optic Gaming now potentially could be finishing second in their pool means that we could see an Optic versus Shopify in the winners bracket, which seems to be happening far too often for my liking. It's ridiculous how we keep having these results. But then also, if Mindfreak were to kind of lose some games against Magin, for example, and they lose that series, there is also a possibility of some weird 3-way tie, and then who knows who's going to win that group. So this pool play has definitely been messed up completely by the Aussies, and you know what? That's how the Aussies like it, I think, to cause a little bit of a ruckus.
Won't be the first time some Australians have shaken some things up, and let me tell you, we can give you some results, or at least some scores as it's playing out right now. Mindfreak actually up 2-0 against Magin, so with Magin beating Omit, you would think Mindfreak have a real opportunity here, Dan, like you were speaking about, to top that pool.
Yeah, and top the pool, and we could potentially be seeing Omit maybe even eliminated from the competition in top 16, which I don't think you would expect. I mean, we have had historically, we've had a couple of open teams that have been able to push themselves into the top 12, but again, the expectation is always that the open team should be finishing last, really, in that group. But then to beat the #1 seed, if we do see Mindfreak beat Magin, that guarantees them into the championship bracket regardless. They are not going to be able to finish bottom of that group. So it would really only be if they get reverse swept by Magin and then also lost to Omit, then that's when the ties start to come into the equation. But yeah, we'll worry about that if it happens. But right now, Mindfreak are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think we got to catch up with Frosty for just a brief moment as he was walking past us, and the result that just happened with Mindfreak and Optic Gaming, he said, oh, well, I guess it looks like we're going to play Optic Gaming again in round 1 after, the good performances they put in. It's like, lads, we've done what we're supposed to do. Can everybody else just do the same thing?
Yeah, I think they're starting to get a bit sick and tired of having to have a tough matchup in Winners Bracket Round 1, but it hasn't affected them typically in the past. I mean, that's the matchup we want to see. We want to see Shopify Rebellion versus Optic Gaming, and we've been saying that that's like the biggest match that we probably can have at this tournament, but then you see Optic Gaming lose to Mindfreak, and you're like, well, is that the biggest game that we have at this tournament now? Should we be looking over towards FaZe or Space Station or Mindfreak? Are Mindfreak going to go on and win the whole thing? Imagine if Mindfreak won the whole tournament.
No.
All right, mate, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Some plot armor being really set in here.
I'm getting ahead of myself, but imagine.
No, imagine they're actually losing.
Oh, yeah, they are. Actually,
so,
yeah.
I think it's fair to say that when Optic Gaming match against Shopify Rebellion so early in the tournaments, a lot of us are thinking, this is the series I want to see, but can I have some filler in between before? I don't need to get to the main course straight away. Let's have some appetizers and work ourselves up to it in maybe a winners finals. But I don't mind watching that series time and time again, Dan, because it always delivers.
It does always mean that we get a skewed bracket, and often we get to the winners final, and you have a pretty one-sided affair in the winners final because you often end up with like first versus third or fourth seed rather than the first and second seed. But then that elimination final gets a little bit juicy at times, depending on who's made their way through that bracket. But we are just speculating, because a lot can still change, even with just the remaining games that we still have in pool play. And of course, Legion Gaming still have a chance to get back into this series. I say a chance, I think it's a slim one with what I've seen so far from Cloud9, but when you look at game types, maybe there's a chance that this is going to be a better end of the series for Legion Gaming. They've played a lot of Halo this weekend so far already in that open bracket, which does help. Sometimes it can be a hindrance, you might be a little bit burnt out, but I think for them, they can be happy. I think when you're 2-0 down now, it does take a little bit of pressure off, and you're like, all right, you know, it can't get any worse from here, all right? Let's just try.
Well, 3-0 is worse.
Well, I mean, at this point, you're looking at a 3-0, right? You want to at least put one map on the board on main stage.
Well, here is the opportunity. Do Legion Gaming still have a word here? Can they string something together, or will it just be a series of mumbles? Because right now, it's been a series of fumbles. Cloud9 2 to the good. The flag already out on the move. Kuhlect's got the sniper rifle. Flag's gone home. That means that work still to be done here for C9, but Kuhlect is all too comfortable standing where he is.
Enemy flag
He's sick.
returned.
Oh, you mean in game? Okay, yeah. Very comfortable. He will convert the kill as well. And now that flag can start to move, and they're going to have the perfect cover for it with Kuhlect finding this position. But I think the snipe happened. Oh!
That's a beauty.
Xuzeyy and Euzey coming together. The twins getting the job done to not allow Cloud9 to move that flag far enough across the map. And now Legion Gaming to begin their siege of the base of Cloud9. This is a very important position to be holding as well if you want to capture the flag. Guarding ramp with your life.
You're almost like Gandalf at times. You shall not pass. And Xuzeyy with a doozy gets another kill. No more sniper rifles to play with, though, unfortunately for him, but the work's been done. Gunnplexion has already got the flag all the way up through the sewer. The back ramp is secure. The foundation is there. Legion Gaming have one on the board. And are now starting to ask a few more questions.
That's more like it from Legion Gaming. Exactly what the doctor ordered. That'll just give them that little bit of belief and hope. And maybe this one isn't completely over. A couple of players will go down. Cloud9 trying to respond maybe with a quick siege of the base themselves. But Legion Gaming have just been able to dominate top middle at the moment, and Cloud9 can't afford to let that happen. They can't allow that overshield to go so easily into the hands of players as well, but as I say it, bubu dubu, being the sneaky boy that he is, able to hide around the corner and get the backsmack.
I love that we're looking at the cameras and the POVs as they switch, and everybody's in frame, and then you see little gatorz, and all you can see is a forehead.
I thought I'd just be seeing his chest. I thought he'd be too tall for the camera.
Bubu dubu though. Trying to escort this flag home, providing that cover fire. And Xuzeyy opts to overextend and hoping to cut the flag off at the pass. Is there enough support there for him though? He gets 1-5 shot on the Sab, but it's just not enough. Needed more help from his friends, it didn't come. 1-1, all tied up. Sniper rifle now for Kuhlect.
Are they gonna have both snipers now? I know they were hovering around the enemy sniper as well, were Cloud9. sadly, I don't think they're able to hold on to it, so Kuhlect is going to be very aware of that position. You can see he heard the call out, just double checked that angle, but now he trains his focus elsewhere. Speaking of elsewhere, Mindfreak currently 2-0 up against Majid. Come your ears if you don't want spoilers. And they are leading their third match as well, 2-1. Mindfreak closing in on taking down the Europeans and going 2-0 in their pool. They will have the chance to top the pool going up against Omen.
Once upon a time, an Australian team would have been absolutely delighted to beat the European team. And now their expectations have shifted when they've taken down and tamed some of the big dogs. Talking about Optic Gaming at the minute. Now they've shaken up the bracket, shaken up the whole tournament. On board with Sab. He's not shaken whatsoever. Driving forward as a matter of fact. Helps Kuhlect get one kill and continues to take space for his team.
It is interesting, every time Legion lose like 3, Cloud9 suddenly step up and get a little bit more aggressive into top middle. They almost are trying to give Legion top middle now. I think they've noticed that Legion have been focusing on that area so much, so they try to bait them into it and then they pinch on either side. It was where they were losing a lot of kills at the start of the game, but very quickly adapted, and that's what makes some of these more practiced teams that little extra bit better. 3 dead for Legion again. Sab's going to now run this flag. He's going to go uncontested around the pass, I think, so is anyone from Legion Game able to overextend here? I think all of them went the other side, but I think they've been caught by Cloud9, and Cloud9 will take a 2-1 lead. 4 dead.
Back-to-back run on the cards here then. Do Legion Gaming have any more chips to bet and to gamble? Running out of time. Concern, issues. They've seen success to get to this point. But it's just a road too far, a road too tough as Cloud9 close out the series with a clean sweep.
A clean sweep, a very dominant Cloud9, a confident Cloud9 who will finish second in their pool and move on into the winners bracket side of the championship bracket. Sadly for Legion Gaming, that'll be the end of their tournament. We still want to give them their flowers. I mean, an amazing tournament run, going all the way through that open bracket on the winner's side as well, taking down some pretty impressive teams to get there, but just one step too far when they got into pool play here. Now, there is results happening elsewhere. Shurs. We have just seen Mindfreak take down Majid, so Mindfreak now 2-0 in their pool. And again, this is going to shake up the entire tournament with these results coming from the Aussies.
Yeah, I think they're starting to lay the foundation for a real run, are the Aussies. And I think it's also important to note that we do have world qualification spots up for grabs here. So teams like Legion Gaming, they might not be done just yet.
Yeah, then very important games as well. You want to be there. It's all well and good talking about getting into, you know, the pro championship bracket, getting into pool play, but ideally, everyone is aiming for the World Championship at the end of the day. You want to be there in Seattle at the end of this month, and that would be a dream come true, I'm sure, for a lot of those teams. So when those qualifiers happen, they're going to be huge.
I mean, for a lot of people watching at home, for like, even you and I, making it to a World Championships, being one of the top 16 teams in the world, that's an achievement in itself, and sometimes maybe it goes a little bit unnoticed.
Yeah, and I think this year's going to be even more special as well. I think there's going to be a lot more riding on it. It's going to have that extra bit of importance for obvious reasons, and I'm excited to see what happens when we do get to Seattle. But there's still a lot to do here in Charlotte, that's for sure.
Lots of games on the horizon, lots of big series still to come. We've had some massive upsets already. We've had a lot of games going according to plan, but Dan, I really can't wait to see what way the whole thing shakes out.
Yeah, I think it is going to be shaken up, though. I'm curious as to whether now we see Mindfreak go on to take down Omen. Omen would then be eliminated. Mindfreak would then top the pool, would mean Optic would finish second in the pool, which I believe would mean we'd have Shopify versus Optic as a 1 versus 2 in winners bracket, which it shouldn't happen, but it has continued to happen. And I think that Shopify Rebellion are probably a little bit pissed off about it.
And if I know anything about Halo tournaments, Dan, is you get one surprise, but usually it's like waiting on a bus, that you wait for one, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and eventually when you get one, actually a couple more follow it very, very, very quickly in a quick succession. So we're not done just yet.
We are not done just yet, but of course pool play is almost concluded, and then we will be moving into the championship bracket, the big business games. But we still have a couple more games that are going to be happening on other streams, but for this stream in particular, we're going to go for a break. When we come back, we will be starting the main show. Lottie will be on the desk, and of course have Tony and Snipe down alongside her as well. So don't go anywhere, make sure you stay tuned in, and we will see you for the main show.